Hey guys, I'm Jesse Wormington. This is my song Full Time, and this is the mixed session for it. I originally mixed this on Ableton, but this is the Logic version of it, so I can show you exactly what I did and how I mixed this song. So here's what it sounds like from the chorus. I'll add a link in the description as well to the video for the song. Okay, so it's kind of an R&B-ish style song. So here's what I did. With all of the files that I'm going to link to you guys here, you just import them into your session, so you can go to whatever folder it is. I have mine right on my desktop here. Just highlight all of them and drag and drop into your session. Then drag all of the files to the top of the session. So if it's like over here, just drag it to the beginning. Then you can start working. So the first thing I did was organize everything. So I got the vocals up top because that is kind of what I based the song around. That's the first thing I started mixing. Then I did the guitars because the vocals and guitars were the basis for everything. That's like the backbone of the song. And then I added the kicks, the heartbeat kick and a chorus kick, the snaps on the left and right, the splash cymbal, the bass guitar, these bass drops, and then the synths and everything else, and then the guitar solo. So I've color-coded everything based on type, right? You don't have to do that, but it really helps me to have a solid workflow just to organize everything. So the way you do that is right-click, assign track color, and then you just pick something. And then once you colored all of the tracks on this side, you can go to the actual waveforms here, color regions by tracks. So if I made this track over here a different color, like say it was blue, and I wanted this to be the same color, I could just go over here, color regions by tracks. Now that's also blue. That's what I did first. I organized everything. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pan stuff. So my lead vocal and my vocal low octave below, I'm going to keep these in the middle. I'm going to send my vocal upper third to the left. So I'm just going to get this pan and go all the way hard left. Get this upper third right, get this pan, go all the way hard right. So now I've got all of these vocals. One disclaimer, these vocals are already processed, meaning that I've quantized them and I've pitch corrected them. I would call that the scut work of making a mix, and it's something you can't skip. But just to get you guys started on mixing in general, I'm not going to do that for this video. I'm going to make a separate video and show you how to quantize and perfect audio files. But yeah, so with the lead vocals, we've got all of this stuff, all these harmonies kind of happening. Baby. Right, so you've got the top vocal, you got the low octave, then you got the upper thirds. My lead vocal's in the middle, my low octave below is in the middle, my upper third is hard left, another upper third is hard right, and then I've got this snap, which I've panned to the left, another snap, which I've panned to the right, and the splash cymbal I kind of pushed over just a little bit. The first line of separation in mixing is panning, because you're literally sending sounds either center, right, or left, right? So physically, you're moving them. The next step would be just EQ. After that, press X on my keyboard to bring up the mix window. I want to make sure all of these things are proper mono or stereo. The stereo sound is going to be right and left at the same time. Like when you play a piano, you're going to hear bass notes and higher notes kind of everywhere around your head. A vocal is isolated, like I'm doing it this way, I'm doing it this way, I'm doing it this way, and I want that to be very specific. I want to be able to send that places. So all the vocals are mono, the rhythm guitars are mono, the kicks and the snaps and the splashes are all mono, the bass guitars and the drops are mono. The synths are all stereo. The guitar solos are also stereo since I imported them with some of their own reverb. We've got the importing, we've organized our tracks at this point, we've panned them all, we've adjusted all of the mono and stereo. Now we can get into the meat of the mixing. X brings you to your mix channel, and we're going to start off with the lead vocal. So we're going to go into the channel EQ here. That is the first plugin I have, and this is what it looks like. So basically, I've taken this green band here, and I've boosted 8K by 15 dB, kind of a thin band here, and then I've taken this blue one right here, and I've just boosted 1350, like a little bit higher, so I can create a super high fidelity pop vocal sound. So I'm super emphasizing the upper frequencies here. I also reduced 100 hertz here. I basically cut that out because you don't really want the rumbling sound on your vocals. Then I went onto my compressor for the lead vocal, and this is kind of how I set it. The ratio is all the way up 30:1. The threshold is -33, so it's super compressing. The knee's 0.6. The attack is 17. It's pretty slow. The release is 210, also pretty slow. But it's going to compress it a lot. So if I play this vocal with compression, it sounds like this. It's been cold. And if I play it without compression, it sounds like this. It's been cold. It's a huge volume thing, right? There's a lot of sibilance that comes into compression. When you add compression, it's like you're putting the vocalist right on your ear, which is what's expected today. So these things are all necessary to keep your mix competitive. And then the next thing I added in Logic is an exciter. On Ableton, I added like a saturation plugin. It's essentially a little distortion amp for your voice. It just kind of makes it a little more powerful. Specialized exciter stereo, that's how I got that. The compressor, I went into dynamics compressor. Channel EQ, I just went into EQ, channel EQ. So back to the exciter. So I'm going to go into it. 8,400 hertz, and then I boosted it by 4.5%, right? So it's just adding some distortion there. And that is how I processed the vocals just in terms of plugins. I did the exact same thing for all of these vocals, right? They're all processed the exact same way in terms of their plugins. And then we can adjust the volume. The volume for the lead is just 0. You're at unity. The vocal octave below is negative 7.4. The vocal upper third L is negative 4.4. Upper third R is the same thing. And then we're going to add sends. What is a send? A send is essentially you're taking the signal from this track and you're sending it to another aux track or a processing center to get some alternate signal. So I'm sending the lead vocal to a reverb and a delay. So the way you do that is go to send, click this, go to bus 1, okay? And it's going to create this yellow thing. It's just going to say bus 1, aux 1. And then you label it, reverb, go in, go to reverb. I use Space Designer. It actually should be mono to stereo. This is kind of what my reverb looks like. I've got the length 1.67 seconds, the size 150%, low spread 38, high spread 100%, wet is negative 15.5 dB. And I'm not just using that for the vocal, right? And you can see here, I'm only sending negative 28.7 to that reverb. So it's super subtle. This is your volume knob. How much are you sending? After the reverb, we've got this bus 2, which I've made a delay. So you just click send, bus 2, find it, and that's just going to be your vocal delay. So rename that vocal delay. And then you go into the plugins on this bus 2, go to delay, stereo delay, mono to stereo. And then this is what my delay looks like, just like I've done in the past. I do 180 milliseconds on the left, 220 milliseconds on the right, because it kind of mimics a person talking in a room. You've got a lot of waveforms reflecting off of the walls and the ceiling and the floor and stuff like that to give you a real room vibe versus just a lot of reverb or maybe a really long tailed delay that will give you a spacier vibe. That's not super what I was going for, so I gave this more real, mimicking me being in the room with you vibe. That's what this delay is. That is what I did for all of the vocals. I adjusted the volume on all of them, so the low octave below, it's got like negative 24 on the verb, so I'm just sending it to the same bus, so I just go here, bus 1, that sends it to the reverb that I just made, then this one, same exact thing, this one, same exact thing, right? So the volume here, it's like negative 24.9, negative 24.9, negative 24.9. On the vocal low octave below, for the delay, I've got negative 28.2 volume, so not a lot going there. On the upper thirds, I have more volume going to the delay, so I've got negative 12 and then negative 12 going to the delay there. And that is it for the vocals. So I just want to show you what the difference is between having no processing on the vocals and having all the processing. So I'm just going to turn off everything here, and it's going to be night and day. It's been cold, but the sun is up. It's working, never come back, baby. Want to turn it back on? For you. So you brings it right to life. We'll pick up our lives and be safe on the other side. Right, an enormous difference comes from these plugins. You can be a really amazing singer, and if your vocals aren't processed correctly, no one's really going to connect to them. Because in 2022, every vocal that you hear on every popular song is processed in a perfect way. So it's pitch corrected, it's quantized to be exactly with the rhythm, and then it has all of these really great EQ compression and then saturation, delay, and reverb on it to just make it sound absolutely as beautiful as possible. This is kind of an R&B tune again, so it's all really focused around the vocals. So since I've already quantized them and pitch corrected them, and now we've just processed all of them, we're done with the vocals. Cool. So now we're going to move on to the guitar. For the guitar, the volume here is negative 1.6. I added a compressor, which looks like this. Got 2-to-1 on the ratio. The makeup is 0. The threshold is negative 18.5. The attack is super fast. It's 2 milliseconds. The release is 51 milliseconds, and then the knee is 0.7. So it's just going to emphasize a lot of the attack on the guitar and kind of make it stand out a little bit more since it's pretty soft. And then bus 1 for the guitar, I just sent it to reverb all the way up. And then I made a bus 3, so I just made a new one here. And I made it just called it delay. So I went to bus 3, created a bus 3, went over here, renamed it delay, and then I went and added this plugin delay, right? Stereo delay, mono to stereo. So that's 181, 220. So it's pretty similar to the vocal one, but the volume is a lot higher. If you look at the volume for the vocal delay, that is negative 30. The volume for the delay on the guitar is 0. So that is 30 more dB delay happening here than in the vocals, which is a significant amount. That's why I made separate channels there. That's pretty much it. Here's what the guitar sounds like by itself without any processing. So I'm going to go just on the verse. I'm going to add compression. Extremely subtle. Right, now I'm going to add my delay. I'm going to add my verb. A lot of verb here. It's very swimmy, right? It's kind of just bouncing off everywhere and filling up the space. Then the acoustic 2, I didn't do anything at all to this, okay? It is 0. There's nothing done to it, and the only thing that it does is just have this concise ending. Right, super raw. Then we move on to the kicks. So for the kicks, I have added just a little EQ. It's not really anything. I just kind of with a wide Q reduced 1.7 dB here. It just kind of takes out some of the mid-range because the mid-range was just a little much. And then after that, I added a compressor. So negative 17.5 on the threshold, ratio is 2-to-1. Attack is 13, release is 230 milliseconds. Kind of a fast attack, super slow release. So that's just going to add some intensity just a little bit. And then I sent it nowhere because I want it to be dry. And then on the chorus kick, this is a different sample. It's more aggressive. All I did was add a channel EQ. And this one's a pretty heavy EQ. I'm just cutting like around 3K. So what I did here is I have this band right here, this high shelf EQ at 4,720 hertz, negative 12.3 dB with a 1 Q, and then I have this high cut frequency filter at 8,150, 24 dB, 51 Q. So it just kind of tapers off the high end. I boosted the low end here by 2 dB at 75 hertz so that the kick can really occupy that low end. Moving on to the snap, I sent it to the reverb all the way up. No other processing besides that. And then on this snap, same exact thing. And then on the cymbals, reverb all the way up and pan just a little bit. That's it. Then we've got the bass guitar. Okay, so the bass guitar, I've got some EQ on this. Now, I had some trouble here because when I recorded the bass guitar, I got a lot of buzzing. Here's how it sounds by itself right now. Right, not offensive. It's there. It's doing its job. It sounds great. But if I go into the EQ and I take out the EQ, you'll hear what I'm talking about. There's kind of just a lot of high-end buzzing that I didn't really want to deal with. So I went in and basically just made a bunch of cuts. This green band right here, 905 hertz, negative 4.5 dB, 71 Q. This blue band, 3,920 hertz, negative 24 dB, 37 Q. And then this purple high cut frequency, I've got 7,900 hertz, negative 24 dB with a 2 Q. After the EQ on the bass, we've got compression. So the compressor looks like this. I've got threshold, negative 13.5, ratio 2:6, makeup 0, knee 0.6, attack is 23, release is 5. So that one is not an aggressive compressor, but the attack rolls in and then it's released immediately, which reduces the attack on the bass and brings up kind of the transient, which is kind of how you clean up a bass sound after you quantize it and everything, of course. Moving on from the bass, I've got the bass drop. Channel EQ looks like this, just a low cut frequency at 105 hertz, right? That's all I'm doing with the EQ. And then the compressor looks like this. I've got negative 50 dB, so I'm really bringing it up. 2:1 ratio, and then makeup, I've got 12.5. Attack is 13, release is 330 milliseconds, knees 0.7, and that's what I did for the bass drop. I did the exact same thing for the reverse bass drop. Then warm synth. I've just got this one compressor, negative 14.5 dB on the threshold. Ratio is 3:1. Attack is 29, release is 8.9, knee is 0.7. And then I've got a send to bus 1, which is the reverb. That is negative 16.7 volume. And then send to the delay, not the vocal delay, but bus 3, which is just the delay. And that is negative 21.5, okay? The volume here is 4.6. And the volume for the bass is 0. The volume for the bass drop is negative 14.4. The volume for the reverse bass drop is negative 7.8. Moving on from the warm synth, which is panned all the way left. This actually is automated, so I'll come back to this. The violins should be panned hard right. I just put a compressor on, so I've got negative 17 on the threshold. Ratio is 3:1. Attack is 29. Release is 51. Knee is 7. Panned hard right. The volume is negative 5.8. Moving on to the sine wave bells. Nothing really done here. It's just a stereo track. This is negative 15.6 volume. Then we've got the transition synth, which I also automated. So I'll come back to that in a second and show you kind of what I did, but I boosted it just to 6. I turned it up all the way. Then I got the guitar solo, nothing done here at all. Other guitar solo, there's 2 tracks that make up the guitar solo, nothing done here at all. I recorded them with the reverb, so they kind of came in sounding great already. Yeah, then you've got your reverb, your vocal delay, and your delay, which are the sends that we've created. One thing I do want to point out is this compressor, and this is on your stereo out. This is something that you want to try and mix with. On Ableton, I use different compressors, but this one is kind of me mimicking the other one that I was using. So my threshold's like negative 24.5, my ratio is 4:1, makeup is 2.5, attack is 10, release is 64, knee is like 0.7. This just glues more. It brings up everything. And you'll notice right here, I have the second compressor. This is only necessary as a fake mastering compressor, right? Because mastering is really volume control and frequency control in a mix. You're just bringing up all the frequencies to be appropriate for most speakers. So people who master audio have a lot of different types of speakers that they'll listen to a song on to make sure that all of the frequencies can sound great through any speaker, right? So the song shouldn't sound amazing in your car and like trash on your phone, right? It needs to be beautiful on all of those things. And so that's volume control and frequency spectrum control. So that's a lot of stuff. I sent out this mix to a mastering engineer when I was done with it, and he took the mix and basically balanced it. Since you guys aren't learning mastering today, what you can do to make it sound amazing off the bat, if you're showing a mix to somebody, is you can add this fake mastering compressor, right? Which is just a heavy compressor, right? So the threshold here is negative 16.5, ratio is 5, makeup is 8, so that's a lot of volume. Attack is 3, super fast. Release is 11, again, pretty fast. That's going to add a lot of distortion and overall volume and feeling. So this is cool if you're showing your friends and you want like a quick thing. If you're mixing a song for a band, you want them to hear how it would sound before you send it off to mastering and pay for that. You can add this little compressor and just boost the volume a lot, because if things are loud, they sound good. But if things are quiet, even if it is beautifully mixed, people are going to miss that, right? Because you have to know what to look for. So here's what it sounds like without the compressor. Here's with. Right? So it's just bringing up everything, which is the point of mastering anyways. You want to hear everything in the mix in a really balanced way. So I have this kind of extra compressor there. Going into automation, guys. So I'm going to press A on my keyboard here, and then I'm going to check out my automation. So I didn't automate anything except for the warm synth and the transition synth. So let's go into that. So basically you click this, volume, then go into main, pan, right? So on the warm synth, you're going to go to volume, main, pan, okay? And then just click absolute. I've got this panned hard left, and then it kind of goes back to center. The reason I did that was to balance the violins, because you'll notice when the violins come in, they're hard right the whole time. Right, so on the choruses, I've got this warm synth kind of automated panned hard left on the second chorus and the third chorus. It's a unique way to do this. I could have just made another track with the same warm synth and then just pan that, but I wanted everything to flow pretty seamlessly. So this pan does jump, right? I've got center, hard left for chorus 2, back to center for the solo, and then back to hard left. My automation for the transition synth just looks like this. I kind of just went hard left and then hard right. So we've got all of the automation done here. And that is it for the mix of Full Time. One cool thing to notice is how different this song sounds before you mix it versus after you mix it, right? If you turn off all the plugins without any processing, it's like night and day compared to what it sounds like with all the processing. So I'll do that now. I'll turn off everything and play it, and then I'll turn on everything and play it. All right, here's how it sounds with no processing at all. With everything.
I will stay for you, so you don't have to choose, 'cause I will stay for you.
Right, insane. It's a complete night and day difference. This is how I mix my song Full Time. Let me know if you guys have any questions or comments or requests, and thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.